They will be our question and answer panel. So any questions you have will be posed and they will be the first persons on hand to answer them. Of course, we do have other expertise online in the persons of some famous PDGs, and anywhere where we need additional support, we will be yielding to them as well to hear their input. And here comes Roger. The second segment, we will go into our discussion rooms. Everyone should have received the discussion room listing. If your name was not in a discussion room, we apologize. However, the setup this evening will allow you to select your room. So when the time comes, if you don't see your name on the list, you can select a room of your choice. The slides from Tuesday's session were shared. The slides that we'll be using this evening as it relates to the case studies can be found in the Community Needs Assessment PowerPoint. Those are at the very end. Each room was assigned a particular case study, Team A, Team B, Team C. And when that time comes, we'll give you a bit more information on that. Just to go over our Zoom protocols for this evening. Please remember, if you're not speaking, to mute your mics. If you wish to speak, please utilize the raise hand gesture button. We encourage you to use the reaction buttons as well as the chat to post any questions or comments that you may have. We also invite and encourage you to keep your cameras open. If you are camera shy, we would like for you to open your cameras on 2 occasions for us to take pictures. We will indicate when those times come up so that you can open your camera, even if it's just for that time, to allow us to take the picture, and then you can close it. However, our preference is if you leave it open so that we can all see you and get to know you. We do have 2 interpretation channels today. If you wish to hear the proceedings in English, please click English. If you wish to hear it in French, please click French. I now invite DGE Brian to give welcome remarks to this evening's session.
Brian needs to unmute.
I just did. Sorry about that. And good afternoon, everyone. I just spoke for about a minute, thinking I was unmuted. So just wishing everyone a happy session. I think we have another hour and a bit this afternoon. Looking forward to a productive session, especially on the case studies. I'm actually looking forward to them myself. We'll be breaking up into different groups. I see a few new names that I didn't recognize from before. I'm not sure whether there are a few joining us this week that weren't on last week, but if they are, I'd like to welcome you to the PET sessions. And we have a wonderful team of district trainers, present, past, future, with us this afternoon. And of course, I'm not here alone. I'm supported by some very knowledgeable past district governors. There's PDG Roger Bose. There's PDG David Edwards, who is in his car at the moment, and he will have to leave us in a bit. But while he's on, I'm sure he'll be happy to share his expertise with us. So I know the next session is a question and answer question. Please ask the very difficult questions while PDG David is around, and you can leave the easier ones till he's left. I noticed that I'm not sure District Treasurer-elect Ruben is supposed to be joining us, but I can't see him on yet. Nevertheless, we might as well continue, and it's back to you, Leah.
Thanks, DGE, Brian. No, actually, I was scanning for DTE's name on the listing. I will reach out to him. However, in the interest of time, and since everyone on has been so prompt, wouldn't want to keep them back. We can get the ball rolling, and I'll reach out to him in the meantime so he can join in. As you said, you have some big support in the person of PDG David. We also have PDG Sonia on. I saw her earlier. Roger is on. So it'll be you, Roger, and of course, supported by the PDGs. So over to you. We did say that we would start out with the contentious issue from Tuesday's session, which was whether in the financial management of charity funds, if Rotary clubs are allowed to deduct a percentage to deal with club administration costs. So we'll let DGE Brian start with that bit, and then we'll move on to hear what PDG Roger has to say, and if any of the other PDGs would like to weigh in. Over to you, DGE Brian.
Thanks, Leah. On that question, I've taken the precaution of discussing the matter with a few of our esteemed PDGs and other knowledgeable persons in the district. And the suggestion is that we will discuss it further as a group, and we will issue a statement in due course. And during the course of the visits with the various clubs, if there needs to be additional discussion at club level, I'll be happy to do it. But at this time, we prefer not to make any pronouncements because there seem to be different practices in different clubs, and we would prefer to be able to discuss it with the clubs first to get a better understanding of what they actually do and why they do it before we agree to discuss it any further. So as contentious as it is, Leah, sorry, we prefer to take the approach of understanding the matter a little better before we continue the discussions. So we'll be happy to discuss any other matter, and back to you.
Thanks for that input, DGE Brian. That's good to know. At least we can have that to look forward to, which will provide the much needed clarification. As it was raised on Tuesday, we did indicate that this is an issue that has been coming up for quite a number of PET sessions in the past. So it clearly does need proper guidance and ventilation. So we look forward to hearing from you on that further. Another issue that came up was the issue of account separation in terms of how should funds be managed. And I know we did have some instruction on that, but just to use this opportunity now to delve into it a bit more, as we were restricted in time on Tuesday. What is the recommended structure for holding funds in terms of club funds, charity funds, etc.?
Okay, the recommended structure is that we have two separate accounts, one for club funds and one for charity funds. So they ought to be two bank accounts and two different forms of account, two different processes of accounting for funds. So at the end of each week, each month, and each Rotary year, we expect to see a report on club funds from, for example, dues, raffles, any sort of funds that the club raises, and how these funds were spent for club activities. And then similarly, on the other side, we expect to see a statement on fundraising activities, donations for charitable purposes, and again, how the funds that were raised were applied for charitable purposes. PDG Roger, would you like to add anything to what I've said?
Sure, thank you. I don't mind. Apart from the strict separation of those funds, club admin funds and charity funds, of late, and maybe not just of late, but for some time now, I think that there's an additional suggestion with respect to clubs having a third account that would be for projects. And any of the clubs who are on this call who have accessed rather district grants in the past or global grants would know that the accountability for grant funding is also requested to be separate and apart from typical club activities. So it's not uncommon if you're a club that has accessed grants in the past, whether from the Rotary Foundation or elsewhere, that the expectation is that you account for them separately as well. So I'm not going to dabble into the first question, but because the DGE has stated that he will get back to everyone on that. But I do feel strongly about the fact that there must be, from my knowledge of it being this way for forever, that a club admin bank account and a charity bank account must be kept separately in every club. And going forward, should you be interested in or expect to apply for grants, in particular from the Rotary Foundation, then you might want to think about the establishment of a third project account as well. That's my contribution.
Thanks so much, DGE and PDG. Another question that came up in the session on Tuesday was as it relates to club accounts. Now, we did see several examples of club accounts as it related with the fundraising, charity, club admin, and the separation. The question that came up, however, was at the end of the year, in terms of the final accounts, how are those to be prepared, and do they need to be audited?
Okay, again, it will differ from country to country, because some countries would have laws that require even Rotary clubs to report in a specific format for regulatory or taxation or other purposes. So it will be difficult to prescribe a single method of reporting that will cover, for example, the reporting requirements in Trinidad, the reporting requirements in the Netherlands Antilles territories, and the reporting requirements in the French territories, because in each of these jurisdictions, there are different requirements. However, the very basic requirement is that there must be, as I mentioned earlier, some form, a proper form of club reporting, and within of club reporting, that is, the Rotary Club of wherever needs to produce a set of financial statements. As again previously said, the financial statements should indicate club management and administration activities and project activities. And as PDG Roger said, because of the requirements to report grant funds separately, if there are grant activities, again, these need to be reported. The club also needs to prepare what certainly we've become accustomed to calling a balance sheet, or whatever terminology you might use in your particular jurisdiction, showing the assets and the liabilities, what the club owns and what the club owes. With regard to the audit, again, it is recognized that it is not always convenient or possible to obtain the services of an independent external auditor to perform an audit of the club's financial statements. There used to be at one time stricter requirements on the need for an independent audit. It is fair to say that these strict requirements have become a little more relaxed because of what is happening in the auditing profession. But as far as possible, the financial statements should be, if not audited, reviewed by a third party, either a committee within the club who is going to check on the activities and of the treasurer and report to the club, or best practice, as is done by the district, actually engage an external auditor. But as I said, if it is impractical to engage an external auditor, you can engage somebody who is reasonably independent, even if that person is a member of the club, to review the financial statements and provide an opinion on them. However, as I mentioned, different jurisdictions, different countries have different legal requirements. And in some countries, there may be a legal requirement for a club to have externally audited financial statements. In cases like that, the clubs need to be guided by the requirements of the country rather than the requirements of Rotary. The national requirements for reporting financial statements must be complied with. And then we comply with the requirements of Rotary. So again, I don't see is Sonia still on? If Sonia is not on, perhaps Roger might want to add.
Roger does have his physical hand up.
Okay,
I am here.
Roger, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I want to make 3 points about this very quickly. One is that in the state of Trinidad and Tobago, there is a requirement for being registered and having to have audited accounts as an NGO operating going forward. I think that all the Trinidad clubs would have been communicated about this already and should be in the process of, or starting the process, or will be guided in terms of the process, number one. Number two, there was a requirement in the past, and I don't think that it has changed, that if you were eligible to access a district grant, you needed to have audited accounts of your club. So that, in my opinion, means that once your club is intending to try to apply or access a district grant, that you should have your accounts audited. And then the third point I want to make very quickly is that certainly in Trinidad, I believe in Guyana, but I'm not putting my head on a block, and I believe in Barbados, but I'm also not putting my head on a block. Aruba, this may be the case as well, whereby corporate sponsors, in other words, corporations that we go to for sponsorship for various things, have been asking that the club have audited financial statements so that they, in their opinion, would be giving sponsorship funds to an entity that is responsible, that can account for the funds that they were given, et cetera, et cetera. And certainly in those countries, it could be all the English-speaking countries, as a matter of fact. I'm not certain of this though, but I know of those couple countries, Trinidad included, I think Aruba included, and I saw Liz shaking, or rather nodding her head, so I believe in Guyana as well. Corporate sponsors want to know that they're giving money to an organization that is responsible, that is accountable, etc., and audited accounts prove that. So I think it has been a guideline rather that we have been espousing to all the clubs in District 7-30 for some time, that it's a good idea if you're not at that point to start working towards that point. And I remember saying to incoming presidents in the past who have said, well, you know, our club never had audited accounts before. And I remember saying to them, okay, well then, as the incoming president, you can start the ball rolling. Get the ball rolling, get some advice if you need. There's a lot of people in the district that can give you advice on how to get started. At least maybe your legacy would be that you started the ball rolling towards getting your club having audited accounts if it doesn't happen in your year. But it's very important to have it, yes.
Leah, I think PDG Sonia would have been happy to contribute a while ago as well.
I think PDG Roger eloquently handled the situation. It's really important that as clubs, we make that move to audited accounts. And Roger talked about the sponsors being comfortable, knowing that that's who we are. It's important that we take those steps as we move in a direction of accountability. And that's definitely the key word here this evening, accountability and, you know, integrity, because there you are. Thank you so much. Roger did a good job. No need for me to expound anymore.
Great, thank you, PDG Sonia.
Okay, so we have a hand raised by P.E. Charles. P.E. Charles, please take the mic.
Thank you, Julia. I just want to make a point very the account. I recognize that we
Just 1 second. Just 1 second, P.E. Charles. You aren't very audible. Is anyone else having difficulty hearing him? Right. Is it possible for you to change, just move a bit so to see if we could get better reception?
Just a moment.
Okay, it looks like he may have gone to reconnect. I know he was on his device, his mobile device, so possibly that's it. But when he comes back on, we'll certainly give him the opportunity to raise his question. One thing that emanates from what was just exposed is that as it relates to the cost of auditing, as we know, those costs have been rising. Certainly in St. Kitts, on several occasions, clubs have attempted to do that, and the cost has been prohibitive, upwards of 2,000 and 3,000 EC dollars. Is there any leeway for who does the auditing? As in, does it have to be a recognized auditing firm, or can clubs go to chartered accountants who may be able to do them a favor, or if there is a chartered accountant in another Rotary club who can do the audited accounts? Is that allowed? Is that acceptable?
Yes.
AG, Leah, may I just jump in, because I was going down that very road, because I wanted to make the point that having audited accounts, it doesn't mean that it has to be an external auditor. It's an independent audit. And independence does not mean that it's because you are a member of the club and you're not you're a member of the club, you're not the treasurer, and you do the audited accounts. That is independence. I know that we have, you know, legal persons here as well as, you know, accountants, but I think that that is acceptable based on my little knowledge.
You see, the challenge has been, Leah, that years ago, an auditing firm could accept anybody as a client. the rules of the profession, which I still belong to, have changed significantly. And to undertake and accept an audit for an organization like a Rotary Club is a daunting task for an accounting firm, because there are so many issues that you have to comply with that it would be practically impossible for an auditing firm to give a Rotary Club an unqualified audit report. Because the expectations of what is done, what has to be done during an audit have changed significantly. And it really would not be possible for, especially the smaller Rotary clubs, to comply with these expectations. So that is why I mentioned that the rules, which at one time were fairly strict in terms of audit requirements, have relaxed to accommodate the realities of what is happening within the auditing professions. But as Charles has just said, if there is a chartered accountant or any suitably qualified person who is willing and able to provide a report, an audit report, then that is also acceptable.
Thanks so much, DGE. We do have a question emanating from that in relation to the auditing firms, the rules transitioning. The question is, are these changes due to money laundering compliance issues?
Some of the changes would be related to money laundering, compliance, KYC, know your customer. And some are also due to the changing demands of the management of the accounting profession, the regulatory framework of the accounting profession. For example, how can an audit firm report on the completeness of revenue for a fundraiser? The amount of work that the auditing firm would have to do to give a clean bill on health, to say that a club has complied with all the internal controls necessary to run a fundraiser, would be prohibitive. And these are the realities that the accounting profession is facing. And these are the implications for organizations like Rotary clubs.
Thanks, DGE, Brian. Another question we have in terms of the audits, independent audit firm, however we choose as clubs to engage in those, is there a time limit for which this should be completed after the end of the Rotary year? And if there isn't a stringent time limit, is there a best practice or recommended time frame that clubs are encouraged to work within?
Ideally, best practice would be 3 months after the end of the reporting year, that the report should be completed and delivered. That is the recognized best practice. But we know the challenges that we face as Rotary clubs. But, question did ask about best practice, so the best practice would be 3 months.
Great, thanks so much, DGE. Another question that came out of Tuesday, there was a lot of detail in the sample accounts presented by past Assistant Governor Tafido. So the question is, do clubs always need to go into all of those details when doing their accounting?
Hopefully, yes. I don't think the details were that challenging. But PDG Roger, what do you think?
I think that the recording of the details of the methods of income and methods of expenditure are exactly what the expectation is. And if you want to, or if you agree to move towards becoming independently audited and or even taking that other step of being independently audited by a recognized auditing firm, then these details are exactly what they will require in order to produce, accurate financial statements. And accurate financial statements are not just for some external body like the foundation or a sponsor organization to look at some point in time. It's for the benefit of you and your membership to know that you're being very accountable for all the manner in which the club operates. So it's being accountable to yourselves as well as being able to prove accountability to others. And I just think that it makes perfect operational sense being in an organization where we actively receive funds and expend funds to properly account for them in the detail that is required. Yes.
Thanks for that, PDG Roger. PDG Sonia, I see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Thanks. So I'm gonna differ just a little bit with PDG Roger in the sense that that level of information is not necessary for external people. It's essential for internal, our members, our club members, etc. So while you're giving all of that level of detail to the auditor to come up with the financial statements should be easy to read by the people who have to look at the financials. But the system must be spot on. The system, the procedure for recording your receipts and your disbursements must be visible and must be available so that anybody, including the auditor, who will ask, how did you arrive at this number? You've got to be able to show it. But the external users of your financials need just the assurance. They need that auditor's report and they need the summary, just so that they have the assurance that you are legit. But definitely the source, the recording of the transactions are important.
Thanks for that intervention, PDG Sonia. I see we have P. Charles's hand raised, so I'll let him take the mic. And then following that, we have a couple questions in the chat that need ventilating.
That was a legacy hand. My apologies. I should have removed it.
Thank you so much. One question that we missed as coming out of PDG Sonia's intervention, it was about the recommendation for a standard software, accounting software that clubs should use. And the fact that 1 year, one treasurer may use one software and the following year, the new treasurer uses a different software. So some questions from that, just from reading that comment would be: one, is there a recommended software for clubs to use across the board? And secondly, is it a financial management issue if different accounting softwares are used from year to year? Don't all jump in at once. DGE, Brian. I'll put you in the hot seat on that one.
Okay, I'm not aware of any single software suite or program that is recommended for all Rotary clubs. And I really would be surprised if they were. Because you have clubs of different sizes, clubs that do different things, projects and so on. and you would need software to address the specific needs of each club. In a small club, for example, it would be quite possible to report using an Excel spreadsheet where you have very few transactions. You're just collecting dues and paying a couple bills. It would not make sense to invest in an elaborate accounting system. So I think it would make sense for each club to invest in a software system that is appropriate to their specific needs. Sorry, I'm going a little hoarse here. At the same time, clubs must be careful not to underinvest in software. I mentioned Excel spreadsheets a minute ago. You don't want a big club with hundreds or even thousands of transactions attempting to keep their financial statements on an Excel spreadsheet, for instance. That would not make sense. Clubs need software that allows them to send statements of accounts to their members, so the members can see what they owe the club for dues and other events. And the software system that clubs use must be able to facilitate these things. So in summary, it is up to the individual Rotary clubs, and there is guidance for this online, and each club, therefore, if there are no accountants in a specific club, then it makes sense for clubs to engage with an accountant who can advise the club on what is the appropriate software to use for that specific club's needs. So no single solution, but sensible solutions are required for each club.
Great, thanks so much, DGE. Anything to add, PDG Roger, PDG Sonia?
Not at this time, thank you. I'm good.
Okay, great. Then we had another question in the chat from Peter, I think it was. I'm just trying to get it back now. Peter, yes, PE Peter. I was not following the line of your question exactly. Do you mind taking the mic and expounding on that a bit? PE Peter, Pompey,
Yes.
are you there?
Pleasant good evening to all on the call. Yes, I'm not in a position to put my camera on. But yeah, I was merely making the point that, for instance, here in Guyana, because of the anti-money laundering supervisory regulations, to open a bank account is a very difficult and challenging experience. And I know it will be challenging to have 3 or 4 bank accounts, more so when the proceeds that goes into those accounts are small. Because the banks, even though they would like to have as much money as possible available to them, small amounts, does not equate. The cost of supervising very small amounts of money can be a challenging thing for the banking system. But I believe that we must have a remedy and a recommendation that fits across the spectrum of our district, that provides the kind of guidelines that can be simulated across, let's say, Guyana, Barbados, Trinidad, down the line. Because what makes up a club, or the viability of clubs, are depending on people and money, right? You have to have resources to really generate and activate projects. And what I know from my club, when I joined Rotary, we had great people, always have great members, but we had a challenge with our financials not being up to date. And one of the things I had insisted on is that we brought it up to date, but it's the upkeep that poses a challenge. Because depending on the board that you may have from year to year, then a board may insist on certain regulatory or certain supervisory requirements, and that board is, goes out and a new group of persons are leading, and then what you strive to build up goes back to what it used to be, and then it's a challenge to get it back up again. And I do agree with DG-elect to get an auditing firm now to audit. Guyana is in a very different place in its history right now, and everything is getting very pricey and costly. And the time to have an audit firm audit, $5 million a year or $10 million a year can be a challenging experience. So I like the suggestion that was made regarding the independence of how independence is interpreted for auditing or for presenting financial accounts in a manner that it can withstand scrutiny. Those are my observations. I hope that it's understood.
Thank you so much for that intervention, Peter. PDG Roger.
Oops, sorry. Yes, I want to make 2 points very quickly. One is that incoming presidents should be looking at Club Runner and or looking into Club Runner, where they can get a lot of guidance and advice with respect to club reporting. Yes, the American system is a little bit different to the English system, but I think you could get a lot of guidelines there with respect to what the general sense of club reporting should be like. That's point number one. Point number two is no disrespect, obviously, in any way to the incoming president of the Rotary Club of Georgetown Central who just spoke. But I have often heard clubs in the past also say, well, it's really hard to open a bank account, or it's really hard to open a second bank account. And to that, I would say, okay, but if it is that we are agreeing that you should have separate accounts in order to run your club properly, or indeed you should have a third account potentially for managing projects, then all I think we all would like you to do is to take that step, whether it's hard or not, go through the difficult process of them asking you a million questions and all about your grandmother's birth certificate and all that sort of thing that I know that they ask you. It's quite ridiculous, but go through on behalf of your club, go through that process and get those accounts open, because we all know when you get those accounts open, you have crossed that hurdle and solved that problem once and for all for your club, because the accounts being open now mean that you have done the right thing, you're in the right place with respect to putting that in place, and you can then have a good future for how your club accounts are done thereafter. So bite the bullet now on behalf of your club if you haven't done that process yet, and get it done this year.
Thank you for that intervention, PDG Roger. Okay, we have about 10 more minutes left for the Q&A segment, so please don't be shy, get your questions or comments in. Remember, this time is for you. We had our plenary on Tuesday. That was time for the presenters to speak. This is your time. We want to hear your questions or your comments. Please, please, please take advantage of it.
And Leah, incoming District Secretary Ruben has joined, so he's available to answer any difficult questions, I'm sure. And
okay,
he is a practicing auditor as well. So
welcome, District Treasurer-elect Ruben.
Thanks very much, Leah. Thanks for having me. My apologies, I had an earlier meeting and I was hoping that it would finish on time, but it really went over. So I just scrambled and was able to get on not too long ago. But
we're happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We do have a comment that perhaps a list of community recommended software options for the admin and accounting needs could be collected and shared. And we've seen a few suggestions and recommendations in the chat. Club Runner to use to send statements and invoices. I've also seen QuickBooks recommended and saying that it actually does integrate with Club Runner if you have Club Runner, so you can use those too. And then I saw Grayson says, oh yes, he's used, their club has used QuickBooks as well. My club currently uses Waves, and our club treasurer speaks highly of that. And our previous club treasurer speaks highly of that as well. For me, I have zero numbers experience. I wouldn't know the difference between any of them if they were right in front of me. So I will take the expert's opinion on that. But this money issue definitely is something serious, especially as stewards of the community's money, which is essentially what we are. That's what we do when we go to persons in the community, when we go to corporate sponsors and ask them to put not just their faith, but their money in our hands in order for us to do good in the world per our Rotary values and goals. I know there are some clubs, well, not necessarily the clubs, but there are some members who feel, what's the big deal? Why do we need to be so nitty gritty? You know, we're doing good. They can see our projects. Why do we have to go down to such detail? So since we have District Treasurer-elect Ruben online, could you offer some intervention to that question?
Thanks very much. I'm thinking that because we are collecting funds from the public, I think it requires more than just the fact that they can see our project. I think accountability and transparency as far as it relates to accounting for funds that are collected from the public is such that we should prepare proper management reports that we will take to our meetings, regular meetings. And apart from that, we should prepare annual financial statements and statements that show how the funds, the various source of the funds, the project that they were used on, and the result for each major project undertaken by the club. I know that obtaining an annual audit from an external firm can be an external exercise, but in most clubs, there would be accountants and there are persons who are capable of at least performing some routine checks on these financial statements. So I think what should happen where the cost of an external audit may be deemed to be expensive, we should use members of the club to at least conduct some form of, you can probably form a committee of accountants or auditors, and you perform checks similar to internal auditors on the financial statements. So once they're finalized, we know that they have been exposed to some level of scrutiny beyond that of the treasurer and the board of directors. Yeah.
Excellent intervention, a great summary of everything that we've heard so far. Just a few final questions. One, could you tell us, I'm picking on you, DTE Ruben, you came in late, so you have to make up now, you have to play catch up. Could you give us just a couple benefits of proper or utilizing proper budgeting practices within our club to encourage us to use those methods?
Well, okay, great. When I was president of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent, any project that before the project is executed, approved by the club, I require that the committee or the individual that was running the project present a budget. It's important that we have a budget. First of all, the budget will give us the first indication as to whether or not a project is financially feasible. The last thing you want to do is to run a project and you find at the end of the exercise, at the end of the event, that there's a loss and the club has to finance the loss or think of ways and means to make up the deficit. So as far as I'm concerned, it is very important and critical that before a project is executed, that a budget is prepared and that the budget is approved by the board, the board, so that one can determine very in a very at the very early stage, you can anticipate the result. If you don't prepare a budget, you may not know that the project is likely to result in a loss. You may, when you prepare the budget, you can estimate the project and the surplus or the profit, and you can determine whether or not you want to make an extra effort to extend it, to reduce the scope, or there may be cost component that you want to whether modify or remove from the project. That's one at the beginning. At the same time, the budget helps you to keep on track the expenditure, because your budget will show you the anticipated income. It will show you the expenses that are likely to be incurred in order to execute the project and the financial result. So as a cost control mechanism, it is critical that you have the budget. So at the end of the day, and not only that, the persons who are running the project, executing the project, they'll be held accountable for any overrun major departure, that is as far as the cost of the different components of the project are concerned. And the other importance of the budget is that for future planning, when you want to, when a project is being executed, we should anticipate that a next board, a next set of directors, a future committee will want to repeat the project, especially if it's successful. And the budget will give a good indication as to the level, the size of the project, the resources that are required in terms of financial resources, human intervention, effort, and everything like that. And at the end of the day, the other important aspect of it is like when we're doing reflection, we will look at the budget, we compare it with the actual result, and then we can see, we can do a postmortem, see where we went wrong, where we can improve in terms of the execution of the project, so that we can improve the profit or improve efficiency depending on the objectives of the project. Yeah, I don't know if I've touched on enough aspect of it to clarify and to satisfy your question.
Thank you so much, DTE. Ruben, it's like you were here all along. A lot of the points were made and you summarized them wonderfully. Thank you so much. We do have a comment in the chat. I'll encourage everyone to read that. We are now getting ready to transition to the second segment of today's session. Just before we head there though, and we give you your instructions again, we will take this opportunity to have a group photo. Those who are in a position to open their cameras, we are requesting that you do so now for a short period to allow our photographer, Makonem, to do a screen capture or do his best method of capturing us on camera. So please smile, open your cameras, etc. Makonem, let us know when you're ready so that we can put on our brightest and whitest Colgate smiles. Okay, thank you all so much. Thank you, photographer Makonem. All right, so as we move into the sessions, everyone should have received the listing for today. However, I'm sharing it in the chat for those who may not have had an opportunity to check their emails as yet. If you do not see your name as a PE or SE, please join any chats you wish. It's not that big of a deal. We are asking the PDGs and AGEs on the call. We did not assign you to any group. We gave you the privilege of selecting which group you would like to join. As you'll see in the instructions as well, there are the assignments for the group is as it relates to which case study you'll do, whether team A, team B, or team C. So when you go into your rooms, you will have a discussion leader. The discussion leader will identify themselves They are members of the district training committee. You will read the case study, then you will discuss it based on the instructions that are given in the slides. You will prepare an outlined version of the case, the community needs assessment, just so you remember when you're in school and you had to do an essay and you did the outline first and then the essay. We're not interested in the actual essay. That's for you to do on your own time, but we want to see what type of outline you produce using these instructions. Once the time is up, you'll have 20 minutes for that segment. Once your time is up, you'll return to the main room and we'll have 3 presentations, one from each team. So decide amongst yourselves within your group whether you wish to present your outline. And then when you come back, we are looking for 3 volunteers, one who did team A, one who did team B, and one who did team C to present their outline. Should we not get any volunteers, we have no qualms volunteering groups to present. So don't think you'll get away. Prepare as though you have to present. Now we'll open the discussion rooms. You should see an instruction telling you to select your room. Please go to the room that you were assigned. Again, if you weren't assigned any room, pick a room. It does not matter. So we are going to open the rooms now, and you should see something come up to say join a room. If not, you click those 3 dots on your Zoom bar where it says more, and you go to breakout rooms, and then it will show you the rooms, and you will click the room that you're supposed to go in. So let's do this as quickly as we can so that you can maximize your 20 minutes. We'll alert you when the 20 minutes begins. We'll also alert you as your time runs down. So you'll get a 10-minute mark, and you will get a 5-minute mark and a 1-minute mark. Then we'll get a 60-second warning when your room is about to close. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I hope your discussion room sessions were fruitful. We'll start with the volunteerism. Is there any group who did team A that would like to volunteer to share their plan with us, their outline? You just have a few minutes. It doesn't have to be anything long, just 2 to 3 minutes, literally to go through the outline. Any volunteers? Team A.
Yes, we had a volunteer. June,
amazing.
Daniel. June, you have the floor.
Unmute yourself, June.
Good evening, everyone. Am I that lucky to go first? So I'm the guinea pig. I will try my best with my team behind me, my typical team behind me. Okay, we had a case. Should I read through the case to familiarize everyone? Coordinator, should I?
Sure, you can read through it quickly.
Okay, I'll read through it quickly. I'm a fast speaker. Visited the mayor of Point 14, who said that recreational facilities and activities are needed for teenagers. Unfortunately, the town budget cannot pay for a youth center, etc. The mayor did say that the town had a vacant lot that could be donated or used for some purpose. They also had a vacant 2-room school that was not in very good condition. That's the end of the case. This is the case that we had. The first thing the group kept in mind was that we had, whatever we had to do, we had to make sure that it was in line with Rotary's principles. So we decided that our target group, we identified that our target group were teenagers. Now teenagers, when we thought about teenagers, we said that it can be so broad. So we decided that we needed to do an an assessment. And one of the first approaches in the assessment we're going to do is have a community meeting. Reason for to make sure that we find out not just what the mayor wanted, but that is what the community really wanted. Very important to find out the main stakeholders, the main targets. That is what they really require and the community requires. So involving the community was major for us. So we had a community meetings. We decided to also conduct a survey, which is inexpensive, considering that there were no ready funds available. We also had to do a feasibility study as to which one, whether using the vacant lot or using the 2-room school that was already existing, which one would be more feasible, given that we don't have any funds. So we had to conduct an inventory assessment also to find out which one would be concerning time and as well as money. We also identified doing a community mapping, identifying the resources in terms, whatever resources in terms of skills of the persons in the community. With that information we'd have received from our from the community meeting. So it would be a phased approach for us, having the community mapping. My colleague, Lenita, can you assist me with the remainder?
I think you covered everything very well, Secretary June. It's just to confirm that this is what the community wanted. We wanted to get an appreciation for the demographics. While it's teenagers, but you have 13 to 19, and that can be a very diverse group. To do an asset inventory and the feasibility study, and also to look at what resources are available within the committee. In a nutshell, that's what we were able to do in the short space of time that we had.
Okay.
Great job, June.
Thank you, team. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that intervention. Do we have anyone from Team B? Crystal, I see you have your hand up. Was that for Team A or was that for something else?
No, this was for Team A.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I didn't see it before.
Oh, that's okay.
Anyone for Team B?
Do you mean like from any of the groups under Team B?
Yes, anyone who wants to share, who did Team B, who wants to share their outline.
I volunteered to go.
Okay, that's great.
I actually found that we had a lot of like lived experience and professional experience in our team that was specific to our case. So I'm going to start off by reading the case really quickly. Sorry. Okay, so our case is, we spoke to the head of the welfare department, who spoke of an elderly couple in town who seemed to be locked into their home because they couldn't navigate the front steps. They also had trouble climbing the stairs to their bedroom and often ended up sleeping on the couch or the floor. She asked if Rotary could help in any way. So the first thing that we decided to do, obviously, was to go into the home and do a primary assessment in detail. So looking at the structure of the house or the apartment, the environmental factors, surrounding area, outside, and of course, then doing the human assessment, which is the physical and mental health of the couple, maybe any situational factors such as existing NCDs or existing mental illnesses or conditions. And this is for both persons. An assessment should also help us identify the feasibility of certain resources and interventions. So that primary assessment is really important. And we felt it was important for it to be holistic, covering all of the factors of the situation, not just the singular problem of getting upstairs. We also agreed that the engagement of a mental health and psychosocial support professional at this point of the planning and evaluation is really important so that we can properly consider the mental health or traumatic impacts of whatever proposed solution might be for a couple that might be dealing with elderly or physical or mental issues. So that was something I thought was very important as well. And of course, the evaluation of caretaking options. Maybe they have family, maybe they're professional options that might be available in their community or in their city. And of course, underneath that, we will have a suggested solution. For that suggested solution, we have a few actions, and I'll go through them in order from what we've discussed. The first would be to ensure that as the Rotary Club, that we have permission to engage the property or to engage the couple and their properties in any suggested solution, and making sure that we have legal counsel to make sure all the legal documents are in order and all authorizations are given. Then we would develop a budget that would include professional assessments that would be secondary to our primary assessment, execution of the operation, which might, purchasing of items, or maybe transitioning them to a new space, which is kind of what we were orienting to with some of the difficulties that were discussed. Continued maintenance of any equipment or upgrades to the space or new space. So we want to make sure that we're putting forward a sustainable solution. And of course, having signed agreements and if necessary, waivers that don't put the Rotary Club in any unhealthy situations of accountability or liability. Meanwhile, making sure that they are supported. And of course, continuity post-execution. We want to kind of make sure we have a plan for that. And then of course, maybe checking in on them routinely after the execution of the suggested solution. So we didn't get into some of the needed areas, but that's where we stopped. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Yes, I know the time was short. I actually did give you an extra 5 minutes.
Sorry.
But as I said, I heard all of the chatter, so I know it was a lot of discussion. Okay, right. Team C, well done, Team B. Anyone for Team C?
Yes, hi, Shamala Bimal here.
Okay, go right ahead, Shamila.
All right, so we had, let me just, we also had the case study with the mayor of Point Fortin. Do I need to read it again? I don't know. Everyone's familiar with it.
Wait, sorry, which one did you have? Team C?
We had the case study with the mayor of Point Fortin. Let me read it. What is it?
No, sorry, Shamila. We are taking one from each, just given the time constraint. So if we had that already, unfortunately, we'll move forward with another one, the final one, which is Team C.
Nigel,
thank you. I love your enthusiasm.
No problem.
All right, that would be me.
Yes, Nigel.
All right, I am sorry, I'm having a little difficulty. My phone just cut off on me a little while ago. I had to jump right back on quickly. All right, so can everybody hear me? I'm going to turn my camera on. The phone was a little issue. All right, sorry about the darkness. But if somebody from my team, because could just go quickly, just give an overview of what the question was, and I will continue. So maybe perhaps Lizzie could just go over it quickly.
Okay, I can just read it.
Yeah, just read it.
Spoke with the school principal, teachers and guidance counselors at the primary school. Unfortunately, there were a lot of problems. 3 students who couldn't read at all, many without fathers, students who couldn't afford a change of uniforms the school required, students who come to the school without breakfast, and many other problems of poverty. Can or should Rotary do anything about this school?
Okay, so as you know, we had a lengthy discussion about that. And we felt that if we were to take on this project, first thing we would need to do is do a needs assessment based on the community, because what is happening as the school is a symptom of a problem that starts within the community. So basically, you have a problem with poverty within the community, and sometimes also mixed with a lack of a proper family structure, which leads to some of the problems you see. What are the things we would do, first of all, is conduct interviews with the principal of the school, the teachers. If there's a guidance counselor at the school, we can have a chat with them. And then from that, once you identify more of the problem individual in the students, you can go out now and start speaking to parents and also reach into the community to see basically where the shortfalls are between the schools and the parents and the community. Something like that can end up being very, very comprehensive. A club on its own may not be able to flesh out everything that needs to be done. So we thought that in a situation like that, to have more of an impact, you would have to more or less seek partnerships, possibly with the government, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, community welfare, and so on, see what resources they would have that you could also bring into the fold to help execute the project. Also speak to people, business people within the community. Maybe they would be willing to help with lunch programs, mentorships, help with internships for some of the students that are pretty much have a better chance but just need a little extra push. So we will go into the community and see what resources we can pull out from the community in order to combine with our efforts to make the project a little more sustainable, which is also one of the big things we were talking about, the sustainability. Now, a project like that, we cannot just dive in. We must, first of all, have a budget. So we have to prioritize our actions after we've identified the shortcomings and where we could work and what we could do. Then we prioritize our actions, which are most important, what would have the most impact quickest. Then based on that, we work with a budget. So from that, we have our budget, we know what it's going to cost. From that, we can ascertain whether the project is sustainable for us to go through, and at what duration would we be able to handle it, let's say mostly on our own, or at what point will we need somebody else bigger or other people to jump in order for this project to have continuity and to go on. Because a project like that, you can't start it and just be done in 3 months. It will just be a drop in the pan, and it doesn't really address the main problem. In terms of sustainability, we also realize that for this to also work, we must get buy-in. We must go out and get buy-in from the people in the community. The parents, the teachers, they must be on board. If they do not get them on board, then the project in its own will fade away. So this is one of the main things that we need to accomplish in that, so that we can help to alleviate some of those situations and the problems. These were some of the main outlines we have. We had many suggestions. I would, if anybody else would like to jump in and expound on some of the points I made, but these are basically the points we were making. It has to be effective, the budget, it has to be sustainable. There must be buy-in from the community, and it has to be something where there can be a result at the end of the positive results at the end of the day. Anybody else would like to jump in? Please feel
free. I'll just like to buffer what you said. Ronaldine, Rotary Club of Pointe-à-Pierre. Also, we also have ascertained what is happening at home with these parents. I don't think any parent would like to see their children come to school without any uniform or any breakfast. And we also have to look at the mindset of these parents and try to uplift them in this society. I don't know, we can't do it, but something we'll have to do if we uplift the children. They will maybe have that incentive to uplift themselves to assist those children, because as I said before, no parents would like to see their children going to school, cannot read, no breakfast, no uniform. You know? I know you have all the points we have raised. I mean, it's such a mama task. You know, approaching corporate entities, organizations. Probably one of the panel members raised a good idea of having an after school care where you could after school assist those children, you know, and people in the community can assist with meals after school and so on. I know it's a lot to speak about. Probably also have the social workers, you know, attend, and we as Rotarians could probably reach out to these people to try and assess their needs. So the appropriate ministries or organizations can assist them. Well, I may be superfluous of what you indicated, but I just wanted to put that out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Nigel and Ronald, for presenting on Team C. Thank you to all the presenters. Before we invite DGE to do the closing remarks, we'll invite Rotaractor Ryan to give us our reminders and announcements for our next session. Ryan, please.
Hi, good night, everyone. Thank you for all coming tonight. Just a few announcements. So I would like to remind you of next Tuesday's training session from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It's on the Rotary Foundation, district grants, small and simple. So even the same thing with us talking about auditing and stuff like that, you know, come and learn how you can access district grants and all these different things. And please, you are encouraged to invite your incoming Rotary Foundation chair. Also, secondly, if you're wondering about, well, I come this session and you know, we sometimes forget. Well, we got something special for you. The recordings, all recordings and shared material are available in the PETS 2023 events on the District 7030 calendar, which should be shared now, and you can access it there. So I really hope that you enjoyed your stay night. Hope to see you next week, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rotaractor Ryan. We'll now invite DGE Brian to round off the evening. DGE Brian, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah, and everyone. I think we had a great evening. The sessions, the case study sessions were excellent. Certainly the group I was in, I didn't say a thing, but the participation was remarkable. And judging from what you said, Leah, the participation was equally remarkable in each of the groups. So I think that's what we wanted to achieve this evening, and we certainly did achieve interaction, cross-fertilization of different ideas, and so on. So congrats again to yourself and the training team. And congrats to all the presidents and secretaries-elects and all of the other incoming officers who would have joined this evening. So see you Tuesday of next week, and look forward to another exciting installment of PETS 2023-2024. Have a good evening.
Thank you, DGE Brian. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Have a lovely evening.